the Mauler's reign. The canvas was a Jackson Pollock of sweat and spilled blood. Above the prone figure, Victor the Mauler Volkov stood, his lungs burning, a primal yawp tearing free. The replay unspooled. A skull-rattling kick, the sickening crack of impact, then the puppet-like collapse. Brutal, yes. To Victor, a masterpiece. Later, in the iron-scented furnace of the gym, sweat slicked Victor's raven hair as he punished the heavy bag with piston-like uppercuts. Each strike echoed with raw power, a blatant challenge. Dmitri, his trainer, a weathered gargoyle etched with harsh experience, offered a terse grunt. "Drive it home, Victor," instill terror. Victor, with a contemptuous expectoration, redoubled his efforts, the bag groaning under the savage onslaught. That afternoon, Izzy Diaz located Victor reclining in a leather throne, a gold chain a gaudy flash against his bare skin. An aura of self-assuredness hung heavy in the air, almost a tangible presence. "Victor," Izzy began, notepad poised. "Another contest, another adversary. What distinguishes this one?" A predatory grin slashed across Victor's face, revealing teeth more suited to tearing than smiling. "Distinguishes? They're all moths to a flame, Izzy. Drawn by the glow, destined to be burned." Izzy arched a brow, unimpressed. "Ever entertain the notion of defeat?" Victor's laugh was a rasp, devoid of warmth. "Defeat? An irrelevant concept, Izzy. Expunged from my lexicon. I am the Mauler. I break. I conquer. That is my purpose." He leaned in, eyes like chips of obsidian. This nonentity believes he can withstand me? A foolish fantasy. He'll be fortunate to leave under his own power." Izzy scribbled, attempting to capture the essence of the fighter. The swagger, the calculated ruthlessness, the almost imperceptible tremor of uncertainty she detected beneath the surface. The theatrics are legendary, Victor. But behind the bluster, a modicum of genuine respect. A pause, a ghost of something inscrutable flickering in his gaze. Respect is carved, Izzy, not bestowed freely. And these jesters have earned nothing. They invade my domain. They abide by my decree. And that decree is stark. Submission, or oblivion. He flexed, the biceps swelling like a cobra ready to strike. "That is a lesson they shall soon learn." Izzy simply nodded, meeting his gaze squarely. She recognized the performance, tailored for her, for the cameras, for the hordes. But she also perceived, deep within Viktor Volkov, a simmering anxiety, a fear of the uncontrollable, the unpredictable dance of combat. That trepidation fueled his ferocity, his arrogance, his insatiable need to dominate. And it was precisely that fear that Izzy intended to expose in her reporting. Under the lights, the roar hit Viktor Volkov like a physical force, a tsunami of sound washing over him as he stood just inside the tunnel. Above, the arena pulsed with a chaotic energy, a swirling vortex of light, smoke, and screaming faces. Every color imaginable bled into the next, banners waved like frantic signals, and the air thrummed with anticipation. This was it, the main event. In the locker room, the air hung thick with the metallic tang of sweat and nervous energy. Marcus Reed, Victor's coach, stood before him, his expression a mask of controlled calm that barely concealed the worry etched into the lines around his eyes. "Remember the game plan, Victor. Stick to the jab, control the distance. Don't get drawn into a brawl." Victor smirked, flexing his hands. "Professor, you worry too much. He's nothing. I'll finish him in the first." Marcus sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. He'd heard it all before. Arrogance is a luxury you can't afford tonight. He's got a reach advantage and his ground game is solid. Respect him. He hated this part, the pre-fight pep talk that always felt like lecturing a brick wall. He'd known Victor for 5 years, since the fighter was a skinny kid with a chip on his shoulder the size of Russia. He'd molded him, shaped him, but he'd never quite been able to tame him. Sometimes Marcus regretted the day he agreed to take him on. "Respect," Victor scoffed, his eyes glinting with a dangerous light. "Respect is earned, Professor. Tonight I'm taking it. He bounced on the balls of his feet, eager to unleash the pent-up aggression that simmered beneath his skin. As the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, introducing him as Victor the Mauler Volkov, a primal grin stretched across Victor's face. This was his stage, his moment. He lived for this. He slapped Marcus on the shoulder, a gesture that felt more like a challenge than affection, and strode towards the tunnel. The roar intensified as he emerged into the blinding light. He raised his arms, soaking in the adulation, the energy of the crowd feeding his already inflated ego. He spotted him instantly, sitting ringside, almost hidden by the flashing cameras. Keanu Reeves, the actor. Victor's grin widened. This was going to be fun. A target in the crowd. And still undefeated. Victor, the Mauler Volkov. The announcer's voice boomed, echoing around the packed arena. Victor, sweat plastering his hair to his forehead, raised his arms, basking in the roar of the crowd. He dismantled his opponent in under 2 rounds, a brutal testament to his training. Adrenaline still coursed through him, a potent cocktail of victory and barely contained aggression. He grabbed the microphone, the metal cool against his palm. You all saw it. Another chump bites the dust. I told you nobody can touch me. Nobody. He spat on the canvas for emphasis. I am the apex predator, the undisputed king of this ring. He scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces, the usual groupies angling for his attention. Then he saw him, Keanu Reeves. Victor blinked, thinking he was hallucinating from the post-fight high. But no, there he was, unmistakable, sitting ringside, looking impossibly cool in a simple black suit. A slow smile spread across Victor's face. What was he doing here? Some Hollywood research for another action flick? Hold on a second, Victor said, interrupting his own victory speech. The crowd quieted, curious. He pointed directly at Reeves. Is that John Wick himself? In the house tonight. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Reeves, seemingly unfazed, offered a small, polite wave. Victor chuckled, the sound booming through the microphone. Seriously? You think watching a couple of fights makes you tough, Mr. Reeves? This ain't a movie set. This is real blood, real sweat, real pain. You wouldn't last 5 seconds in here with a real fighter. He started to climb down from the ring, his eyes locked on Reeves. A thrill of perverse amusement shot through him. This was too good to pass up. He could feel the crowd's excitement building, the energy palpable. Maybe, Victor said, his voice dripping with mock politeness as he stood inches from Reeves. After I'm done celebrating, I'll give you a little taste of the real world, a little lesson in humility. He leaned in close, his breath hot on Reeves' ear. Just so you know what it really takes to be a badass. Crossing the line, Victor stood over the crumpled form of his opponent, chest heaving, a predatory grin plastered across his face. The ref had already signaled the TKO, but Victor wasn't finished. He paced, a caged tiger tasting victory. Anyone else? Anyone think they can last 2 rounds with the Mauler? He spat the words, the microphone amplifying his arrogance through the arena. Then he saw him, a face he recognized from a dozen action flicks, sitting ringside, almost impossibly calm amidst the roaring crowd. Keanu Reeves. Victor pointed, the spotlight following his gesture. Hey, Hollywood, think you can choreograph your way out of this ring? The crowd chuckled, a ripple of nervous energy passing through them. Victor, fueled by adrenaline and ego, was just getting started. Bet you think all this, he gestured to the fallen fighter, is just special effects, huh? Come on down here, pretty boy. Let's see how real you are. Marcus Reed, standing ringside, felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He grabbed Victor's arm. Victor, enough. You won. Let it go. Victor shrugged him off with surprising force. Relax, Marcus. Just having a little fun. He turned back to Reeves. What's the matter, Mr. Anderson? Afraid of a little reality? The crowd was getting louder, a mix of boos and cheers. The cameras zoomed in on Reeves, capturing his stoic expression. Marcus could see the PR disaster unfolding in slow motion. "Victor, this is gonna get out of hand. You're disrespecting the sport," he pleaded, his voice tight with concern. Victor just laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Disrespecting? I am the sport, Marcus. Everyone pays to see me." He hopped over the ropes, ignoring Marcus's frantic pleas. The arena went silent, a collective breath held in anticipation. This wasn't part of the script. This was going way too far. The unthinkable. The roar of the crowd was still ringing in Victor's ears, a deafening symphony of adulation and awe. He lapped it up, every cheer fueling the fire in his veins. Another victory, another body laid waste in the octagon. Unbeaten, undefeated, untouchable. He flexed, the sweat glistening on his taut muscles as he surveyed the frenzied mass of faces. Then he saw him, sitting ringside, almost unnervingly composed amidst the frenzy, was Keanu. The Keanu, the one from the movies. Victor's lip curled. An actor, playing tough guys on screen. "Victor, don't," his coach, Dimitri, barked from behind him, his voice tight with warning. "Leave it, Victor. Just enjoy the win." But the words were like whispers lost in a hurricane. Something primal had taken hold. This was more than just ego. It was a challenge, a dare whispered on the wind. Victor felt a surge of pure, unadulterated arrogance. He was a warrior, forged in sweat and blood. What was this Hollywood pretty boy compared to him? Ignoring Dimitri's frantic protests, Victor vaulted over the cage, landing with a thud that silenced a small pocket of the crowd. He stalked towards Keanu, each step measured, deliberate. The air crackled with anticipation. The cheers died down, replaced by a nervous murmur. He stopped inches from Keanu, towering over him. Victor's face, usually a mask of stoic determination, was now contorted with a sneering contempt. "So, Mr. Wick," he spat, the Russian accent thick and heavy. "You like to watch real men fight, huh? You think this is entertainment?" He jabbed a finger towards Keanu's chest, the force light but menacing. "You wouldn't last 5 seconds in here." Keanu didn't flinch. His expression remained unchanged, a serene mask of calm that seemed to mock Victor's fury. His eyes, deep and knowing, held a hint of something Victor couldn't quite decipher. Amusement? Pity? Maybe? Keanu said, his voice a low, even rumble that cut through the rising tension. "But I'm not the one who needs to prove it right now, am I?" Unexpected defense. "Victor, with all due respect, you might be mistaken," Keanu murmured, his voice a gentle counterpoint to the stadium's clamor. A placating smile played on his lips, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Just hoping to catch some good fights." Viktor Volkov, the mauler, snorted, his thick neck bulging against his collar like a bull about to charge. "Enjoy the fights? You think this is Hollywood, pretty boy? Some kind of show put on for your amusement?" His breath, a foul cocktail of cheap spirits and raw meat, hung in the air. Overhead lights reflected harshly off his shaved scalp, dotted with glistening sweat. Keanu's smile held, though a subtle hardening flickered in his eyes. "No disrespect intended, Victor. Just a fan of the sport." He edged back a pace, widening the small space between them. Something snapped in Victor. Years of suppressed rage, a lifetime spent clawing for respect, detonated. "Disrespect? You stroll in here with your movie money and phony humility, and think you can get away with it." He spat, a viscous blob landing perilously close to Keanu's immaculate shoes. "I'll teach you respect," he charged. It was a brute rush, a clumsy explosion of fury. Victor telegraphed his right, a wild swing powered by pure, unadulterated rage. Most would have braced, covered, perhaps even recoiled. Keanu didn't even blink. A shift, a whisper of motion. One moment Victor was lunging, the next he was sprawled on the concrete, struggling for air, a searing pain blossoming in his wrist. He hadn't seen a thing. Keanu stood above him, features serene. He held Victor's splayed hand in his own, the fingers limp and useless. His other hand, a ghost of movement, now rested lightly on Victor's chest. A flawless Shudo strike. The arena fell silent, the collective roar replaced by a single, sharp intake of breath. The Mauler, undefeated, a titan of the ring, lay helpless, neutralized by the unassuming actor. Perhaps, Keanu suggested, his tone still remarkably even, we could both simply enjoy the rest of the evening. Releasing Victor's hand, he retreated with a fluid grace that belied the lightning-fast strike. He turned and strolled back toward his seat, leaving Viktor Volkov to wallow in humiliation and the gritty dust of the arena floor. Silence and revelation. The roar of the crowd faded to a dull thrumming in Victor's ears. He blinked, trying to refocus, but the harsh stadium lights swam above him. The canvas pressed against his cheek, rough and unforgiving. He tried to push himself up, but a solid weight held him down, an alien pressure he couldn't fight. Disbelief warred with a rising tide of panic. Viktor the Mauler Volkov, undefeated, humiliated. He twisted his head, finally managing to bring Keanu into view. The actor stood over him, his face an unreadable mask of calm. Viktor sputtered, trying to form a protest, a denial, anything to break the spell of this nightmare. You got lucky, he managed to croak, the words laced with venom. Keanu didn't react. With an almost casual movement, he released the pressure, stepping back. Viktor scrambled to his feet, a raw scream building in his chest, but the actor held up a hand, silencing him. Keanu's tailored suit, miraculously uncreased, showed no evidence of the takedown. He brushed an invisible speck of dust from his lapel. Luck has nothing to do with it, Viktor, Keanu said, his voice quiet but carrying authority that cut through the murmuring crowd. I've spent decades honing my skills. It's not something you can just pick up in a movie. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the stunned faces in the audience. I have practiced Yoshukai karate since I was a child, and I have studied other martial arts. They are a part of me. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. The color drained from Victor's face as the implications of Keanu's words crashed down on him. He had just been dismantled not by a fellow fighter, but by a man he had dismissed as a celebrity playing pretend. The humiliation was complete. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, growing louder with each passing second. Viktor could feel the weight of their judgment, their disappointment, their sheer disbelief. His reputation, carefully constructed through years of brutal victories, crumbled before his eyes, reduced to dust by a few well-placed moves and a quiet declaration. He had mocked the wrong man, and now he was paying the price. He stared at Keanu, his eyes burning with a mixture of rage and shame. The actor simply met his gaze, a flicker of something unreadable in his own. Then, without another word, Keanu turned and walked away, leaving Viktor standing alone in the center of the arena, a broken champion in a sea of disbelief. The fall of the Mauler. Viktor stumbled back towards the roaring arena, the sounds now distorted, a cacophony that pressed in on him. Each jeering face in the crowd seemed to morph into Keanu's calm, knowing stare. The heat of the lights felt oppressive, not energizing. He could taste bile at the back of his throat. Marcus was a whirlwind of controlled panic, meeting him at the cage entrance. Victor, what the hell was that about? You're on in 5. Victor just stared, unseeing. He knew. Marcus gripped his shoulders, shaking him slightly. Knew what? Victor, focus. This is for the title, remember? You've worked your whole life for this. He searched Victor's eyes, finding only a disturbing hollowness. Forget whatever that was out there. You're the Mauler. You destroy. Got it. Victor nodded slowly, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. He climbed into the cage, the familiar scent of sweat and canvas doing little to ground him. His opponent, the Hammer Harrison, paced in his corner, radiating focused aggression. Victor usually thrived on that energy, feeding off it, but tonight it felt like a threat, another pressure bearing down on him. The bell rang. Victor moved sluggishly, his timing off. Harrison, sensing an opportunity, came forward with a flurry of jabs. Victor usually ate those punches for breakfast, using his superior strength to muscle through. But tonight, they stung, each impact echoing the humiliation he'd felt moments before. He tried to grapple, to impose his will, but Harrison was slippery, evading his grip with an ease that defied their previous scouting reports. Victor's takedowns were telegraphed, clumsy. The crowd, once chanting his name, now roared with a different energy, a bloodthirsty anticipation of his downfall. In the second round, it ended. A right hook, perfectly timed, landed flush on Victor's jaw. He went down hard, the lights blurring above him. He tried to rise, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. The referee waved it off. Silence. Then a tidal wave of boos. Marcus was in the cage instantly, his face a mask of disappointment and frustration. He helped Victor to his feet, his touch surprisingly gentle. "Come on," he said, his voice low. "Let's get you out of here." In the locker room, Victor sat slumped on a bench, staring blankly at the floor. The world felt muted, distant. Marcus knelt in front of him, his usual pragmatic demeanor softened with concern. "Victor," he said, his voice measured. "What happened out there?" Victor shook his head, unable to articulate the swirling chaos in his mind. "I don't know," he mumbled. I wasn't there." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I'm starting to think I made a mistake taking you on, Victor," he admitted quietly. "This isn't just about fighting anymore, is it? A lesson learned." The roar of the crowd faded into a dull hum for Victor. Victory had tasted so sweet just moments ago, but the lingering aftertaste was bitter humiliation. The highlight reels weren't showcasing his knockout punch, but the clip of him sprawled on the canvas, Keanu Reeves' figure looming over him. The downward spiral was swift. His next fight, billed as a redemption bout, ended in a sloppy, embarrassing loss. Then another and another. The mauler was now the maligned, his name synonymous with hubris and poor judgment. Endorsement deals vanished. The crowds thinned. The spotlight, once blinding, now felt like a mocking pinprick. He tried to recapture the swagger, the arrogance that had fueled his initial climb, but it rang hollow, a desperate act for an audience that had already moved on. Meanwhile, back at ringside, Keanu Reeves watched the rest of the event unfold. The earlier chaos had subsided, replaced by a more focused energy. The next fighters were all business, showing respect for their opponents and the sport. A barely perceptible smile played on Keanu's lips. It wasn't a smile of triumph, but of quiet understanding, a recognition of the delicate balance between confidence and arrogance. In the press box, Isabel Diaz stared at her laptop screen, the blinking cursor a silent judge. The deadline loomed. The easy story was Victor's fall from grace, a schadenfreude-fueled narrative of karma. But Izzy was after something deeper. She scrolled through her notes, the images of Victor's bravado juxtaposed with Keanu's composed defense. She began to type, the words flowing with a newfound clarity. "The canvas is a great leveler," she wrote. "It doesn't care about your record, your hype, or your celebrity. It only cares about the respect you bring to the fight." She paused, rereading the sentence. It wasn't just about fighting, she realized. It was about life. Her fingers danced across the keyboard. Viktor Volkov learned a hard lesson that night. A lesson about humility, about respecting your opponent, and about the dangers of mistaking confidence for invincibility. He underestimated Keanu Reeves not just as an actor but as a man. He failed to see the years of dedication, the quiet discipline hidden beneath the surface. Izzy leaned back in her chair, the article almost complete. The real story wasn't about Victor's downfall or Keanu's hidden skills. It was about the reminder that everyone, regardless of their status or perceived power, should be treated with respect, and that true strength lies not in boasting, but in quiet competence and integrity. And that was a lesson worth learning, not just for fighters, but for everyone.